Morning, everybody. How are you? I'm great, thanks. Again, a great location, Silverburn campsite. So today we're talking about Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway in the series. We've talked about yesterday about the fear and the 5 steps to create awareness about what you're doing. But today we're going to talk about choosing love and trust. And this is actually Dr. Susan Jeffers' words as she writes, basically, and her personal experience with her students. So do you consider yourself a giving person? I mean, think about that for a moment. Most of us would actually say yes. But she asked her students a question one morning, and most of them who were married, they all nodded their head and said, yes, absolutely. Therefore, we are bewildered by their own reactions to the homework that she gave them in the assignment, which was simply go home and thank your spouse. Morning, Alana. There was a distinct sense of discomfort in the room. You would have thought I've asked them to go home and beat their children. Finally, Lottie, who's been married for 25 years, piped up. Why should I say thank you to my husband? He should be glad I'm there. Is that how we think? I don't know. It's maybe a challenge to everybody. Lottie, why are you here? She said. Her response was rather evasive, something to the effect that he'd be in a mess without me, and besides, it'd be too much trouble to leave. I repeated my question. After much prodding from me and the rest of the class, Lottie finally was able to acknowledge that her husband gave her a number of advantages of companionship, financial security, and the feeling that she wasn't alone. I said, fine, so go home and thank him for that. So the following session brought the students into my class with looks of dismay in their faces the next day. They couldn't believe how difficult it was to acknowledge the contribution of their spouses. Some of them were able to do the assignment through with reluctance. Others simply could not do it at all. Some reported that they also tried to thank their children and parents, and that too was very difficult. For the first time, they were actually forced to question how giving they really were. This did not mean that they were not contributing in other areas of their relationships. For the most part, they handled the details of their home, raising the children, and performed the obligatory tasks of marriage. But were they really giving? Did they really know how to give? Or did they just exchange, you do this for me, and I'll do this for you? Needless to say, her students were quite dismayed at what they'd discovered about themselves in this simple assignment. I assured them that most of us in our society don't really know how to give. Morning, Stevie. Most of us operate on a hidden barrier system. Few genuinely ever give anything without expecting something in return. Money, appreciation, love, or whatever. You might be saying, what's wrong with getting back? My answer is, nothing. However, if all you're giving is about getting, think how fearful you'll become as a result of that. If all you're giving is about getting, think how fearful you will become. More than likely, the question will soon become, am I getting back enough? This kind of thinking sets up an incredible need to control others so you won't feel shortchanged every time, and destroys your peace of mind and creates anger and resentment. Now that you can see what's going wrong with getting, being the most important motivating for giving. In fact, genuine giving is not only altruistic, but also makes us feel better. And that means just doing something for the sake of doing it without expecting anything in return. So why do we find it so difficult to give? Well, her theory is it's got two components. First, it requires a mature adult to give, and most of us have never really grown up. I could laugh at that. Yeah, sometimes I wonder about myself. Second, giving is an acquired skill that few of us have ever mastered. These components are tied together and require a great deal of practice to achieve. The reason most of us have never practiced these skills is very simple. It usually never occurs to us that we aren't behaving like adults or that we aren't giving. We unwittingly have deceived ourselves. And this is understandable. We look like we are adults and we seem to be giving people. What's going on underneath, however, belittles the appearances. One of the most popular lessons one has to learn in life is how to give, and therein lies the answer to fear itself. As babies, we represent the ultimate of neediness. We come into this world total takers. We have to take or we'll die. Our survival is tied up in the world nurturing us from birth. We give little back. We don't care what time we wake our parents up when we're hungry or loudly scream and bother the neighbours when we want to be picked up. Yes, parents often feeling the joy or the smile and the touch of their child, and in that sense, the child is a giver. But I doubt if the child spent the night pondering about it. My life is abundant. I have so much to give away that I think I'll reward my parents with a great big smile tomorrow morning. No. Their gift is on a rather primitive or reflex level. In fact, a hungry belly in the morning will produce louder shrieks of impatience. As the years pass, we function as more and more independent beings, able to take care of ourselves, or so it actually appears. We dress ourselves, we feed ourselves, we earn a living, yet there seems to be part of us that has never progressed much beyond the crib. Metaphorically, we remain frightened that no one will come to relieve our hunger for food, money, love, praise, and so on. Any relief in the way of food is only temporary. We know that hunger will come again. Imagine what the dilemma sets up for us in the area of our daily living. We can't give. We can't love. We become consciously or unconsciously manipulative because our survival is involved. We can't support the well-being of another person if the needs in any way conflict with our own. And how do we feel operating from a level of a playpen? Helpless, trapped, angry, frustrated, dissatisfied, unfulfilled, and most of all, fearful. So tomorrow, we're going to talk about what more can be frightening than depending on someone else for your actual survival. And I'll see you tomorrow at 7:30.